My parents threw me out on the street and sold my belongings to spoil my brother, and now that they've lost everything, they demand that I give them my inheritance and my house. I am the eldest son of my parents, and when it was just me and them, my life was perfect. They were loving, caring, provided me with everything I needed and more. The problem started when my brother was born. He was diagnosed with some behavioral issues and a syndrome that essentially causes his blood pressure to rise when he gets stressed. It's not serious and has treatment, but because of this, my parents started treating him as if he were a precious gem that needed protection above all else, and no one could touch him. I was just a child when all this happened, but they simply didn't care. I stopped getting toys, stopped getting clothes, everything my parents had went to my brother. Eventually, I even lost my room because my brother wanted an extra room to store his things, making me sleep in the basement or on the living room sofa. One of my worst memories was when my aunt, who had passed away, left me several valuable antique items as inheritance. Whenever I visited her, she showed me these things, and I was fascinated. But, to my surprise, one day I came home from school, and my parents simply said they had sold them because they wanted to buy a video game for my brother. That was the first day I argued with them and expressed all my feelings, thinking that if they knew, they would change. Instead, they gathered my things, called me an ungrateful son, and told me they didn't need me, sending me to live with my grandparents. At first, it was very difficult because I truly loved my parents despite everything and missed them, but as time passed, I realized that the best thing that ever happened to me was moving in with my grandparents. They were affectionate, gave me gifts, and provided all the love a child needed. Eventually, I opened up to them about what was happening at home, and besides cutting all contact with my relatives, they also removed the inheritance from my brother and my mother, their daughter. I eventually forgot about my parents as time went on and accepted my grandparents as my true family. They attended my high school and college graduations, helped me buy a house, and when they unfortunately passed away, all their inheritance went to me, as they had no other children. And that's when, unfortunately, my family reappeared. A week after the inheritance was transferred to my name, my entire family showed up at my house, saying they wanted to talk to me. They tried to enter, but I didn't let them and said if they wanted to say something, they could do it without entering my residence. They explained that due to my brother's demands, they ended up losing all the money they had saved and were on the verge of bankruptcy. I told them I didn't care about that, and if they wanted to borrow money, they should seek help elsewhere. I tried to close the door, but my father prevented it and said it was my obligation to give all my grandparents' inheritance to them. I tried again to close the door, but this led to an argument with them calling me an ungrateful son, saying they didn't regret selling my aunt's inheritance, and that they would get my inheritance back no matter what I did. This continued until I threatened to call the police, and they left. They left, but this situation reminded me of everything I went through in childhood, and I decided that this time I wouldn't let it go. The security camera at my door recorded everything, so as soon as they left, I called my lawyer and told him everything that had happened, and that I wanted to sue them both for this incident and for selling my aunt's inheritance in my childhood. With the evidence of them admitting everything, it would be an easy case according to my lawyer. They will receive the news of the lawsuit tomorrow, and I'm sure they don't expect me to take this step. I know that if they have to pay for everything they took from me, they'll end up on the streets, but I simply can't bring myself to care about them. You can now check if there's a part 2 by pressing share and more.